Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea. Now, every day on the John Campea Show and on open mic, sometimes I don't have enough time to get around to all the questions and live questions that you guys, my viewers, sent in. So what I like to do is every once in a while is get those questions together that didn't get answered and answer them in this supplemental video. And that's what we're doing here right now, because when you send in a live question, I want you to know that every single one of them gets answered, and we're going to get to that right now. And we're going to start off today with the first question coming to us from KELEX, who writes, how about a 3 to 5 minute segment of best movie bloopers of the year at the Oscars, bringing more fun and focus on movies and get rid of one of the 15-minute musical numbers? KELEX, I love that idea. I have never considered that idea. I've never thought of that, but an actual 5-minute montage of, hey, we make the movies and we're human too. And they showed a great 5-minute blooper reel. That would be hilarious. It might actually become like the highlight of the show for people tuning in to watch. It's a fantastic idea. So Oscar people, next year, ask all the studios to send in their best bloopers from the movies they made that year and put together like a 5-minute package. It would become the bring down the house moment of the Oscars. That's a great value add to the Oscars. And you're right, a lot better than the musical performances for sure. All right, we move on now. Andrew Gifford writes, could Shape be Best Picture and Nolan get Best Director? Well, as you can tell, this question came from yesterday morning before the Oscars actually happened. So, Andrew, to answer your questions, yes, Shape of Water could get Best Picture. And no, Christopher Nolan did not get Best Director. That also went to, well-deserving, to Guillermo del Toro. All right, next question comes to us from Paul Richards, who writes, morning, John. Good morning. You are a studio head and get to greenlight one 80s reboot. Which do you choose? Number 1, Willow, directed by Peter Jackson. Oh, that's a good one. Or 2, The Last Starfighter, directed by James Gunn. No questions. Last Starfighter, directed by James Gunn. Last Starfighter, directed by James Gunn. You have matched your director picks with your potential movies perfectly. I would love to see a Willow reboot, and Peter Jackson is definitely one of the best guys to direct it. I would love to see a Last Starfighter, and James Gunn is a great pick to direct that as well. I probably would, if you didn't include directors and just said either Willow or Last Starfighter, I'd still say Last Starfighter. But matching Last Starfighter with the James Gunn, primo, I love it. If I could only agree, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see that Peter Jackson project too. Peter Jackson directing Willow would be fantastic, but I'm going to go James Gunn directing a reboot of The Last Starfighter. Absolutely. Okay, Adam Griffin writes, what makes more opening weekend, Tomb Raider or Pacific Rim Uprising? Tracking currently has Tomb Raider 28 million and Pacific Rim Uprising at 25 million. Yeah, I would definitely say Tomb Raider. Like, I think a lot of people romantically remember how popular Pacific Rim was, and it wasn't that popular. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a lot of fun with Pacific Rim, but it wasn't that popular. And if it wasn't for a real strong surge in China, it was going to lose the studio a lot of money. Ended up about breaking even. But the marketing hasn't been great. The marketing hasn't been great for Tomb Raider either, but I think the marketing for Tomb Raider has probably been a little bit better than the marketing for Pacific Rim. And I just kind of feel like they've already shown us the entire big last battle. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all that stuff they're showing us is like halfway through the movie. But it feels like they've already shown me pretty much the entire big last epic battle in the marketing. And I'm not that excited about it. So yeah, I'm going to say my guess is going to be Tomb Raider ends up making more than Pacific Rim. Probably more than by just 3 million, I'm guessing. Brian Mazzarella writes, AFI had their 100 movies list and a 10-year anniversary list, but no 20-year. Do you know what happened there? And any movie since 2000 that would make it? Well, number 1, I have no idea what happened there. I'm not a member of AFI. Maybe I should be. Maybe I should look into becoming a member of AFI. I love AFI list stuff. I disagree with half the stuff on the list, but they're fun and they're really great. They're great discussion starters. That's what I like about lists. No list is definitive unless you're talking about box office numbers, because that's quantifiable. No movie list is definitive, but their real value is in starting discussions, and that's what makes them fun. I think the AFI lists have always been great, but I don't know whatever happened to that. I don't know if they ever plan on doing a 20th anniversary one or whatever. Are there many movies since 2000? That's too difficult for me to think of just off the top of my head. I'd have to sit down and look at a list of all the films that have come out since then. I can't just pull them all off at the top of my head. So I'm assuming yes. I'm assuming yes. There have to be a couple that would make that list. I'm just not sure off the top of my head which ones those would be. All right, we move on now to Matt Thornton, who writes, what other comic property would you like to see get the digital TV streaming treatment? I'd love to see The Mask get it. Yeah, The Mask. I don't know, man. That's tricky. I mean, remember they tried doing The Mask without Jim Carrey, and that was a colossal failure. Jim Carrey pretty much made The Mask. I don't know how well you could do The Mask without Jim Carrey, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I mean, really, just about every comic character that I would really want to see on a screen, they've already done. I'm sure there are a few that they could do. I mean, I've always been interested in a Bishop story, whether that's a movie or a freestanding television series. I don't know. I mean, look, here's the reality of it. It doesn't matter what comic book character they take. Even if it's a great comic book character, if it's a show that's not written well and they don't have a great plot and they don't put together the right people, it could end up being a terrible show. They could pick the lamest comic book character, but if they get the right writers, the right script, the right people behind the camera, and they put a good story together, it could be the best thing ever. So it's almost irrelevant which character they pick at this point. So I can't think of any off the top of my head other than, and I know we've seen Bishop in a movie before, but having Bishop as a character and his story really get told, to me, that would be really interesting. Okay, let's move on now to Tin Osvaldo Mendoza writes, I know you don't want to talk about behind the scenes stuff, but I want to say I'm very glad you were able to get Ray back. Love his work and hope you find great people to fill in your crew. Well, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And number one, I was bummed out that Ray and Jonathan both got laid off over at the other place. But hey, they were doing what they needed to do. I mean, it's business. They made business decisions. There was nothing underhanded about it. But their loss was my gain, and I'm really happy. I love the work that Ray does. Jonathan does great work as an editor as well, so I'm really happy both of them working with me. I can't really afford either of them, but I'm having them here anyway because they both do great work and they really help out a lot around here. And I hope you guys have noticed that, like, even the qualities of the shows, like the graphics, the pre-made packages, the editorials, things like that have been getting better and sharper. That has a lot to do with Ray and Jonathan both being here. So thank you so much for mentioning that. I know they'll get a kick out of hearing that too. All right. Next one comes to us from Thunder Knight 19, who writes, who would you like to see Tom Hanks work with first, Martin Scorsese or Christopher Nolan? I'm going to say Scorsese only because I feel like Scorsese and Tom Hanks' style would fit each other better. Now, that being said, that might also be a good argument for why I should want to see him work with Christopher Nolan first, because I'm sure Christopher Nolan would probably put Hanks in a role that maybe Hanks hasn't done quite before. So maybe that would be interesting. I'm going to go with my first gut reaction, though. My first gut reaction would be, I mean, seeing Tom Hanks in any movie working with anybody is fabulous and fantastic. But I will go with my first gut reaction to that. It's a great question. I think I would rather see him working with Scorsese first. But don't get me wrong. Tom Hanks working with Scorsese, Tom Hanks working with Christopher Nolan. I'm rushing out to buy my movie tickets for either one of those scenarios, obviously. But if I had my druthers, I would go with Scorsese first. All right, let's see. Tinos Vlado writes once again, I vote we start a petition to get Ray his Hulk versus Hulkster statue. I think you meant the Hulkbuster statue. That's right. Hulk versus Hulkbuster statue. I don't know, guys. That's expensive. I mean, come on. Cut me a little slack. I'll look into it and see what I can do. But well, that's a tall order. Let's see. Nathan C. writes, poor Peter O'Toole never pulled a DiCaprio. What would you have given... What would you have given it to him for? Lawrence? My choice is The Ruling Class. If you've never seen it, it's a weird, morally challenging. Yeah, no, it's very, very good. Lawrence of Arabia is definitely one of the top ones. The next one would probably be it's The King in Winter. I'm just remembering. Is that the actual correct wording of it? The Lion of Winter. Why was I saying The King of Winter? The Lion of Winter. 1968. Done a few years after he did Lawrence of Arabia. and like 15 years before he did My Favorite Year. Those are my 3 favorite Peter O'Toole films. The Lion in Winter, Lawrence of Arabia, My Favorite Year. And My Favorite Year was actually, I was just a child, basically, when My Favorite Year came out. But My Favorite Year was the first movie I ever saw Peter O'Toole in. I saw it even before I saw Lawrence of Arabia or Winter or anything like that. But it was this comedy where he plays this drunkard dude. And I just remember, for a little while, he was my favorite actor. And I loved Peter O'Toole. And by the way, he did some work later on. He was the voice of the food critic in Ratatouille. A lot of people don't know that. That was the voice of Peter O'Toole. He was in Stardust, the new Princess Bride. He was the king in Stardust. So he did a few things later on in his life as well that were really great to see. But those are my favorites. Those are the ones I would have given him something like that for. Great question, Nathan. Love the question. Dimsum05 writes, 20% off tickets and concessions at AMC would be legit. I think that's a callback to a topic we were talking about, how Cinemark has introduced their own new movie subscription service. You pay $8.99. This is a good deal. Think about this. $8.99. Now, if you're where I live, movies where I live cost you like $15 a ticket. So you pay $8.99. That gets you 1 ticket. Free online charges, like the no service fee. Most places will charge you $1 or $2 as an online ticket ordering service fee. So they waive the servicing fee, plus you get 20% off all your concessions. Which, hey, if you're spending $20 on concessions, that's $4 right there. So if you pay that $8.99, so $9. If the ticket is like $15, you've saved $6 there. You save $4. You just save $10. Plus, being a member, if you have somebody come to the movie with you, you're able to buy them a ticket for that same price of $8.99. And then you get to come back. Every movie you come back to that month, you can buy your ticket for $8.99. It's a really good deal. It's not like Movie Pass, but it's legit and it's above board and it's not going to go anywhere. And you get 20% off your concessions every single time. It's a good deal. That would be great if AMC and Regal could both start coming up with their own passes like that, so that places like Movie Pass don't become necessary anymore. So Movie Pass can kind of go away. It would be great if they would start implementing that. So I hope it works for Cinemark. Because, I don't sign up for it because I literally don't have a Cinemark anywhere near me. If I did, I would buy this deal and I would give it a shot. And if AMC had it, I would definitely give it a shot because I would make it back its money just in the concession savings alone. All right, let's move on here. Dirk Diggler writes, the Flashpoint movie has been announced. I don't agree with Warner Brothers because it is just to set up a different actor for Bruce Wayne. I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. They're certainly not saying that's what it is. So don't go dismissing. Here's what I would encourage you about, Dirk. Don't dismiss the movie based on something that we don't know it's true or not. Like, we're just making up this theory. It's just fans making up this theory. They're using Flashpoint to change Batman directors. Warner Brothers never said that. Nobody with the movie or with the studios ever said that. So let's not dismiss the movie based on something that at this point is not a fact. And even if it was a fact, don't dismiss the movie. What if the movie's awesome and it does a great thing with it? Let's not dismiss the movie in advance. Let's wait till the movie comes out and then give us a shot and give it a shot, and we'll see how it goes. They may very well use it to replace Batman, but again, Flashpoint doesn't explain how a different actor is playing Batman. Because Bruce is still Bruce. Like, his face wouldn't change. He wouldn't look like a different cat with the events of Flashpoint if you follow the timeline, right? So I don't know how they're going to pull that off, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'm nervous about it too, Dirk, by the way. I'm with you. I'm a bit nervous about it. Let's see how it all turns out. All right, we move on now to the next question. And this one comes to us from Brian Mazzarella, who writes, happy to support you, John. Big recommendation if you have not seen the Australian show Danger 5. Ridiculous in all the best ways. You know what's funny? I've never even heard of Danger 5. Is it a live action animated? I'm curious now. Now I'm going to check it out. One of my favorite things, actually, about, and I mentioned this once in a while, about the live question, the interactive stuff. One of my favorite things is things like this, these recommendations that people put in, because I don't always get a chance to check them out. But what happens is, like, later, this has happened many times on my show. Later, I'll get a tweet from somebody saying, hey, John, I was watching your show and somebody recommended X TV show. I went and checked it out. It's awesome. You should too. Like, I love that you guys not just are recommending things to me, but you're making recommendations for everybody else watching the show. Then other people find those shows now and they get to enjoy them. It's one of my favorite parts about this whole thing, guys. I love the fan community for doing stuff like this. So thanks for sharing that, Brian. Appreciate that. All right. We move on now to Corey Gaines. And Corey Gaines writes, if the DC rebooted, I would like to see Brandon Routh, I think you mean Routh, it's Routh, so Brandon Routh come back as Superman and maybe Armie Hammer as Batman. Possibly John Leguizamo as Joker. Routh wasn't given his proper chance as Superman, Corey follows it up with, to follow up with that, Brandon being in a Man of Steel style film, even though the film is a masterpiece, would have given him a true chance to shine. Look, I'm a big fan of Brandon Routh. I'm a big fan of Brandon Routh. I love him. Actually, for a long time, my movie rating system was no, like, don't go see it, go see it, or Routh, which was a standard of excellence. Like, it's not just you should see it, you should absolutely see it. It's great. That used to be my movie rating system, was no, go, and Routh. I love Brandon Routh. But you know what? I was bummed he didn't get another shot at Superman, but I really also love Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he has been a fabulous Superman. I really do. And unfortunately, if they reboot the DC, the answer is not to go back and get old actors to play the role again. If you're rebooting, bring in somebody new. And you know what, Brandon Routh, he's got regular work. He's on Legends of Tomorrow. He's playing another superhero. He's playing Adam on Superhero. Or on Adam on Legends of Tomorrow. It's always cool. Every once in a while, he slides in a Superman joke, which is always really funny. And it's one of my favorite things about that show. But I'm with you, Corey. I'm a big fan of Brandon Routh. All right. Next question comes to us from Ariel Sandoval. And Ariel Sandoval writes, what does he write? With Black Panther's success, will we ever see a Static Shock film? One has nothing to do with the other. Black Panther isn't just a comic book character who happens to be black. The thing about Black Panther is it's immersed in African culture. The whole movie surrounds this fictitious, granted, country of Wakanda in Africa. And like the whole movie is immersed in that culture. It's not just that, oh, look, it's a black dude. It's not just that. It's so much more than that. And Static Shock is so different from that. As a matter of fact, you know, you've heard me say this before. One of the reasons I, in principle, wouldn't have a big problem with them making Batman a black dude or an Asian dude or whatever, or the same with Superman. Superman is not American. Superman is an alien from another planet. So if you want him, make him dark-skinned, light-skinned, brown-skinned, I don't care. That's fine, because the character of Superman and the core essential elements of who Superman is not dependent on his skin being white. So I'm fine if they want to change. I don't care. Black Panther is. That's a very core thing about who and what Black Panther is. You can't change that. Static Shock, I would argue, is much like Superman and Batman in that sense. Static Shock, being black or white or Chinese or whatever, is not the core essential element of what that character is and who that character is. You could arguably change the race of Static Shock. And that's what I think makes Black Panther so special. And why it can enjoy that sort of cultural celebration that Static Shock would simply not replicate. You couldn't do that with just Static Shock or a John Stewart Green Lantern or, you know, very few others. Black Panther was really special in that regards, and I don't think you can just replicate that success and that outpouring of support and that outpouring of cultural celebration just on any other character that you happen to make black. I don't think it's the same thing. I think it's different things. So I don't know that, you know, doing Black Panther at this point would do anything for that, or doing a Static Shock would do anything for that. Okay, next up, we've got, as I'm running out of space on my thing here, let me try to get this centered up better. Okay, we got ZCM Zombie who writes, could Lobo, like Guardians of the Galaxy and Baby Driver, could Lobo have a metal mixtape? I don't know. I don't think it would be all that popular. Metal is not for the masses. Like a lot of the music they played in Guardians of the Galaxy and Baby Driver, everybody could love. metal, and while there's some metal, I mean, I went through a bit of a metal phase too. Metal is not a widely popular music form, so I don't know that you could put together that and that audiences would eat it up and love it. It's just not, metal isn't for enough people. And I think people in metal don't want metal to be for everybody. And I think, but that's the same thing that would probably prevent it from being like widely popular, like a Guardians of the Galaxy or like a Baby Driver thing, because the music and those things appeal to more people. I don't think metal does. Now, again, I'm not saying anything bad about metal. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of people in metal don't want metal to be for everybody. They like it being for a certain group of people. And I think that's one of the reasons why you wouldn't get a mixtape like that. And the final question today comes to us from Beto Robles, who writes, I cry watching KELEX Seidel. I've never known how to pronounce Kella's last name, by the way. No matter how many times I've seen Greatest Showman, I still don't know how to say her last name. Is it Seidel? Settle? Anyway, I'll say Settle for now. Keala Settle, live performance, This Is Me. Do you think that if The Greatest Showman had more Oscar nominations, the Oscars would have done the intro The Greatest Show? Missed opportunity by the Oscars. Hey, I've been saying for weeks, I actually remember it's the only time Hugh Jackman has ever liked one of my tweets. I remember I put out a tweet about a month ago, I think, saying it will be a huge missed opportunity if the Oscars don't open up the show with a performance of The Greatest Show, because it's applicable to the Oscars. This is the greatest show, and celebrating the movies and all that kind of stuff. It's perfect. It's perfect. Anyway, I put that out on Twitter and Hugh Jackman liked it, and everybody started sharing with me, holy crap, John, to see Hugh Jackman like your tweet. It was very, I geeked out. I admit I did. But they didn't do it. And you're right. It was a missed opportunity. To me, that was a missed opportunity because it was a perfect fit for the Oscars. It's not just, hey, I like that song, play that song. No, it's about the show business. And you're about to launch the Oscars, the greatest show of the year. So you start with the song, This Is the Greatest Show. It was perfect. And they missed out on it. They decided not to do it, which is really too bad and unfortunate. All right, guys, that will do it for me. That gets us all caught up on all the live questions that you guys have sent into my shows the last couple of days. Thank you so much, by the way, for all of you who do send in those questions. You keep the conversation going and you support this channel at the same time. And for both of those things, I am very grateful. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. My name is John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining me. And until my next video, bye-bye.